3210. Hi.
Hi.
I requested a separate.
Let's send
say
the set
hello.
of Shemot. Yeah.
Rena, Honey,
Sippy.
Neil. Max. Marku.
Nancy, Lindy,
John.
Alan or Avram.
Miriam, Esther.
It's
Miriam Esther.
Miriam Esther.
Yeah.
But in a lot of places it's Mariam.
No, it's always Miriam. I'm just like, if I'm introducing myself, sometimes I say Miriam Esther, but it's really, officially everybody knows me as Miriam.
And what is unofficial?
My full name is Miriam Esther. Yeah. So, okay. So really it's Kabbalah intro. And it's really Kabbalah intro in the sense of learning how to apply Kabbalah into our lives. So it shouldn't just be like a philosophical, theological class, but it should be more personal and more interactive and more applicable to our lives. So, so that's like number one. Number two is also I'll give a little review of the last couple of classes. I think there's about half of the people who weren't here before. So I'll give a little intro, and if somebody wants, yeah, okay. I'm sure it's going to be helpful to most people who are here. And also, okay, and I also want to say that Kabbalah is from the word lekabel, which is to receive, versus to take, right? Which is like a big difference in our lives, whether we take something or we receive, right? Today in Tehillim, we spoke about it, the idea of tov b'toch ha'adam tov b'toch ha'adam b'Hashem b'toch v'nedivim. Better for a person to connect to Hashem than to count on people's generosity, right? Whenever you count on people's generosity, you're down for a heartbreak. So, but for two reasons. One is because people is people and they have their issues. It's not because they're bad. It's not because they don't love us. It's not because they're careless about us. But everybody has their, no thanks, but everybody has their issue going on, right? And number two is that if you haven't connected to this surrounding energy in the world, which we refer to as Hashem, then you haven't really connected heaven to earth. And the whole idea of Kabbalah is to connect heaven to earth. So that our physical lives and our spiritual lives and our emotional lives and our supernatural realm will all be connected. So, and the next thing is that I want us to start with a song so that we can connect our hearts and not just our brains. So we'll start with a song. Vayvani tefilati lecha Adonai, please help me. Lecha Adonai, Vani tefilati lecha Adonai, lecha Adonai, Elohim, ברוב חסדך, אבנני, באמת, אוי באמת אישך. אוי אלוהים, ברוב חסדך, אבנני, אוי באמת אישך. So basically, so if you can open on your phone, so whoever doesn't have it in front of their vision, like the tree of life, that's a sphirot. So you can do the tree of life and open it up, so that you have like a little bit of vision of what I'm talking about.
I close my phone.
You close
So
your phone.
You can look at mine. My phone rings like that.
I see. Yeah,
I have to find
I also
glasses.
put my phone on silence. So hi, Rochelle.
The calls come through.
There's a secret. I can show you the secret I learned.
Okay, so really we're down to Chesed and Gevura, but we'll do a little bit of an introduction again to what we're talking until now. So basically there's the top of the idea is Keter. The top of the Sfirot is Keter, which is basically our connection to heaven, our connection to the supernatural, our connection to our wisdom, our connection to godly wisdom, to the heavenly wisdom, and it's our whole visionary world. So if you remember, right? So Keter is involved or combined of. Anybody remembers? We were talking about it. It's combined of basically desire, pleasure, and faith. Okay, so those are basically the three pillars of life. Anybody remembers we spoke about it, or
Yes.
yeah,
And
good.
that's all in Keter?
That's all in Keter.
I see desire and pleasure, but faith doesn't seem to fit. It's the same way.
Why?
Because it's just something's pleasurable.
Okay,
Faith
because when you
more
think of
intense.
pleasure, you think about more materialistic.
No, but faith is more intense.
Okay, so it's also interesting to mention. If you already said it, I'll mention it here. What is pleasure in Hebrew? Oneg. What is it in reverse letters? It's nega, which is basically illness or plague, or not really plague, but more like a wound or an illness. You can, I don't really have the exact English word for it right now. So, but it's basically the opposite of pleasure is displeasure or discomfort, right? But it's more than discomfort in Hebrew. It's nega. Nega is more than discomfort. So, you know what? It's like we say nagua. What's nagua? Nagua is in no, what's the word? It's like it's
It's not like Nagas. It's not like touch.
in no, I forgot the word in English.
It's not like Nigia.
It's like touched,
Yeah.
but it's touched in the dirty kind of way.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
okay.
what nagua is. Negia is touched, but nagua is in
It's like Pagum.
pagum. It's like pagum, right? So it's like the other way of oneg is nega. Okay,
Pagum is
so
like damaged.
right. So it's not like if the opposite of pleasure is not just lack of pleasure, it's the complete opposite. Okay, so now and I'll explain now why these three pillars are combined into Keter, because basically we're all now in psychology, we know with modern psychology, but it's amazing how this connects now, 2,000 years later, that we're all driven by either the desire for pleasure or the chase of pleasure or the runaway from pain, right? That's what drives us. And then,
It's true, even drugs, you run away from pain.
right, even drugs, right. But exactly, that's the thing. We have, so which brings me to another two terms that are connected to this. We have love, and then we have what we call ahava nefula. Everything has the positive side of it and the negative side of it. So there is love, but then there is in how do you say, like when it's not clean, when it's
Obsession.
no
Impure?
what
Impure?
impure, but it's nefula. It's like it's fallen down from its source, right? I mean, look at it even this way, right? When you fall in love, right, and it's all pink and beautiful, right, and then you start finding out details that make you look at it and you start thinking, is this real? Is this clean? Is this true? Is it more based on lust? Is it true love, or is it more like lust? Right? So everything in life is like that, right? We have to look at everything in life, not just the romantic relationships like that, but with our all relationships in life, we have to look, where am I coming from? Am I coming from a pure place, or am I coming from an unclean place? Unclean doesn't make me bad, doesn't make me dirty, doesn't make me into a less of a good person, makes me just that I need to tune in my consciousness to exactly the right place. So nothing here is coming to shame us or give us the feeling that we're far away from doing the right thing. It's just that we want to tune in to do it more correctly, so that we can tune in our lives to the symphony of life, so to speak, so that the symphony will be harmonious and have no interruptory noises in the background of our lives, right? So we either run away from pain or we run towards pleasure. And when we realize what is really pleasurable to us versus what is not, right, it fixes our desire. So from there, we learn how to create our desire in a more tuned in way, right? So it's like you said drugs, right? It's like somebody will tell you, but I enjoy drugs. I love drugs. I love alcohol, right? You'll show them a video of how they behave after they're not completely themselves, after too much wine or too much drugs, right? And they'll be like, well, I have to think about it again, right? I'm embarrassing myself. I'm not really doing the best for my life. I'm not really feeling so great after I'm in this.
It dulls the pain.
It dulls the pain.
Whatever the
But
pain
it's
happens to be
Havana
from.
Fula, right?
Yeah.
It's not what I really love. What I really want to love is I want to love human beings. I want to love my relationship with life. I want to love my talents. I want to love my creation in the world, my creating in the world. I want to love all those positive things that create a real life for me, right? But I'm not managing to do that for myself. So I run away to what we call in Kabbalah, Ahava Nefula, to something that I so-called love, but it doesn't bring me pleasure. It gives me nega, not oneg. So that's how I create my relationship between oneg and ratzon. Ratzon, right? We all know, again, in our world today, nothing stands in front of in our desire, right? If you want it, you'll get it. The question is, how much do you want it, right? Or how much you don't want it, how much you really want to change the course of your life, right? You really have to come to an understanding with yourself, to a resolution with yourself. What is it that you really want? And what is it that you really want to change in your life? And then how much you really want to change it, right? And after you've decided how much you really want to change it, then you can start creating a plan of how to do it. And then your desire follows your creation, and your creation follows your desire, which we spoke about last time. Down the line of the Sfirot, if you will look at this triangle, you will see Chokhmah Binah Vadat, which is basically what represents the whole idea of Chokhmah Binah Vadat. I make a resolution in my heart based on learning from my own experience and from reading and from listening to people and collecting information, but also seeing what different experiences have brought into my life. I create a chokhmah from it. I create my vision, my wisdom side of my life of how I want it different. And then I start bringing it to binah, to understanding, to making it my own, right? It's not enough that I heard a lecture that it's not good to be angry. You want to say something?
That's why in our prayer we say, "Yeh Ratzon lefanecha."
Right.
That Hashem Ratzon should be to make sure that we're on the
Right.
right track. That Ratzon
Right.
comes in often
Right.
in the Lord.
Beautiful. Like basically we're saying, like, Hashem, make my desire strong for the right things, right? What does it mean that it should be your desire? It's not only that I'm lifting up the desire to Hashem. It's that I'm saying that my ultimate desire, my higher desire, my higher me, the higher part of my soul should connect to the lower part of my soul, right?
I can show you if you want. I can show you.
One of the favorable sentences in Chabad. It comes from, I don't remember where it comes from, the Gemara or the Mishnah, right? La'asot lo dira b'tachtonim. What does it mean to create? La'asot lo dira b'tachtonim. To make an apartment to Hashem in this world. What does it mean to make an apartment for Hashem in this world? Does Hashem need a house? Right? It means that I have a higher desire, but then my ego comes in the way. And then my lower desires, what it means that my ego comes in the way, it means that my lower desires come in the way, right? My, God forbid, desire for alcohol or drugs or an extra piece of cake or whatever it is, right? Comes in the way of my higher desire, which is getting on a diet and not being angry and loving the people around me, etc., etc.
Are you saying that the idea is not to create the reality you're in, but to create another reality that's more positive than the reality you're in?
Basically, yeah. So basically, another thing that Keter is connected to, where we're doing it all very like short, basically. But if you want me to expand, because I think most people haven't heard it, and maybe those who have heard it, will like to hear it again. But so I'm kind of running through it. But if you want me to like stop and expand somewhere, please, barge in. So another thing that Keter is connected to, or what happens on the top of this, I'm kind of like trying to encapsulate everything into like 2 sentences. But another thing that it's all connected to is the Olam Atzilut, which is the higher realm of the world. The higher realm of the world is the realm of basically my theological ideas, my visionary ideas, my imagination, right? My imagination is always farther away or higher than my practical ideas. So I want to connect to that place, right? Every good practical thing that happened in the world started from a wild imagination, right? Some people will say it's just a wild imagination. And some people will take the wildest imaginations and bring them down into this world, right? So we want to be those people. We want to be able to connect to this higher level of imagination, highest level of imagination, and bring it down into this world. So that's the Olam Atzilut. And then from there, which is basically what Hashem is, every thought that comes into my mind, that's another thing. Why we never should really feel, like this is really the ultimate healing for any self-shaming or any self-hatred. If you know anybody who's struggling with that.
Anyone who isn't struggling with that, perhaps?
That's why I giggled. If we understand that every thought that comes into our head comes from Hashem, and we don't have to feel guilty about it, we just have to process it in the right way to make it holy.
Hashem gives us all challenges.
Exactly. So if I thought something bad of someone, the Rambam says, don't, we might get into what happens is if we get into too much self-shame and self-hatred and a guilt trip, right? Most probably we won't make it holy. We'll just
Beat yourself up.
get obsessed over it, right? And Kabbalah gives us like this idea. One of the ideas that Kabbalah gives us is that there's a circle and there's a line. Like the life is a circle and a line. You can be stuck in an obsession, which symbolized by the circle, or you can get out of it and lift it up to Hashem. Every thought that comes into your mind, instead of obsessing about it, lift it up to Hashem. What does it mean? Meditate on it and ask Hashem, where did it come from in my soul? And what do I need to do with it? Please.
The Rebbe also says, don't believe everything you think.
Right.
That's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I really
Right.
think that's important.
Right. And
to
Rabbi
remember.
Nachman says we're living all in imaginations.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fact is, our experience creates a filter. The filter is how we conceive ideas and how ideas are brought internally to us and how we express it. If the filter is dirty and full of garbage, then you have a problem. So
We have more work to do.
our first objective, right, is to internalize this and clean the filter. And when you clean the filter, you're opening yourself up to receive a message that is more from the source, but less from your interpretation.
Right.
Can I pursue that analogy a little bit?
Yes, that's
Yeah, if you have a messy filter, you don't get anything. If your filter's clogged, you don't get wrong messages.
yeah.
You get no message.
it's the computer system that filter is not correct, and then message doesn't get through.
I think in science there's what they call the Maslow hierarchy.
Right.
Yes.
That's the level you're weak in. That's the level you tend to spend most time in. And you're supposed to hopefully walk on and love the high level.
That's the triangle. Where's it from?
Right. Also. So then we have from the Atzilut, we have the three worlds of basically coming down into this world, that every idea comes through the word of creation, Bri'ah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. So the easiest way to remember that is the Rashi Tevot Abiyah, Aleph, Bet, Yud, Ayin.
That's easier.
Atzilut, Bri'ah, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Whoever wants to write it down, to remember.
Well, we'll have
So-
the recording.
Okay. So like basically every idea that we come up with, right? So for example, I know that have an anger issue, right? Now I can learn all the books that I can learn about anger, and I can listen to all the lectures that I can listen to about anger, right? But in the end, when something comes into my life, I get angry again and again and again, right? So I ask myself, next time when I'm calmed down, right? I don't only think about it and guilt myself about it, shame myself about it when I'm in the anger. And I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't get into it again. And I'm such an awful person. I got into it again and blah, 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 right? No, then when I calm down, I sit with myself. And again, I don't guilt myself. I don't shame myself. I ask myself, okay, so where did that anger come from? And how do I make a plan that next time, usually it's the same things that get you angry, pretty much. It's the same triggers usually, and it's usually also sitting on the same things from your past, right? So you need to identify what it's sitting on and how you make a plan to conquer it next time it happens. And when you do that conscious observation in your calm moments, you're more likely to be able to deal with it. So that's the idea, bringing every chokhmah into bina. It's not enough, and there comes another idea. It's not enough that I learned about it. It's that I feel the blood pressure, and I feel my heartbeat, and I feel the ruining of the relationships with my loved ones every time I get angry. That makes me come to the understanding that I want to change in my life. It's not all the books. It's not that it says that it's avodah zarah. It's not that whatever. right? It's that I come to an understanding that this is harmful to my life, that this is inconvenient, that my anger is not really what I love. What I love is me being not angry, except I can't figure out how not to be angry. So I get into this, what we called before, fallen love, or the other flip coin of what love really is, right? So in our postmodern world, with all the talk of anti-self-shame, etc., there's a lot of narrative, a lot of speech about the idea of, like, anti-repentance, anti-tshuva, anti-change. I am me, and if you love me, accept me the way I am. I'm going to be bitter. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. And it's your job to love me the way I am. Right?
I've heard that.
But the whole fundamental idea of the Jewish outlook that we have given to the world, and Baruch Hashem, modern psychology has embraced it, postmodern psychology, I should say, has embraced it. The idea that I am in charge of changing myself, that it's not the whole world that needs to accommodate my whatever I need to fix in life. It's that I need to recognize whatever is ruining my relationships in the world, and then I need to come to an understanding of how I change it.
It's amazing, you touched on it just now, but it is amazing that modern thought, like cognitive behavior therapy, mindfulness, all of that is exactly the same
that.
thing. It's
Exactly
that,
right.
yeah.
But Kabbalah has spoken about it a couple thousand years
Of
ago.
course, no, but that's what's amazing.
Yeah.
But now it's sort of the mainstream, but yes.
It's interesting that every day we pray in Amidah, there's Chokhmah, Bima Badah, the knowledge, understanding,
Right.
application on a daily basis. So it's it's one thing that's a daily thing that to work on.
Right. Right.
And
So,
when
yeah.
you get angry, you're losing control. Yeah, that's what it is. You have to learn how to control yourself, correct?
Right.
And when you get angry, your blood rushes to your face. That in itself is a sin. It's like if you embarrass someone and the blood rushes to their face, etc. It's as if you've killed that person.
Right. But I think
But
that
it's
the big beauty, I'm sorry, 1 second.
Yeah.
I think that the big beauty with CBT, NLP, etc., with all our postmodern psychology, or new age psychology, or however you want to call it, positive psychology, is the idea that if we talk about it as sin, I think that is like a little bit the missing stone that the Baal Shem Tov has added into our lives. That until now, we were talking about all those issues as a sin, or as avodah zara, or in those negative terms that made us feel guilty in what we call awe, the awe side of it, right? And the Baal Shem Tov has added this idea that we can talk about, and after that, and it's interesting, like, Freud and the Baal Shem Tov were around the same time,
Oh, really?
yeah, just about the same time, and and yeah, about yeah, I'm pretty sure. No, no. Baal Shem Tov was about 100 something years before the Freud. Yeah. But anyway, so the Baal Shem Tov has added this idea that we can talk about those things only in an awe way, because awe isn't going to work to change humans' personality enough, that we also need to talk about it in a loving way. So he basically, if Judaism was always talking about awe and love, and until then, the whole Jewish narrative is very awe-ish, the Baal Shem Tov started speaking about things in a much more loving narrative, which creates a
To take
much
away the
more of a
blame.
vessel in our hearts to change things. Like if you have this awe thing in yourself and you have this faith, there comes the answer to your question. What does Amuna has to do with all that, right? We have to have a faith system or a belief system, right? So my if that belief system was enough for me to say, the Gemara says that every time you get angry, you're doing avodah zara. Okay, great. It's good enough for, Avram and Yaakov and Sarah and whatever, right? Is it good enough for me? Is it going to change me? Am I on that level that because it's avodah zara, I can do it? Or I need something else in my life to tell me, look, you're not breathing. You're ruining your relationships. Your blood pressure is going up. You're going down the path to diabetes and a heart attack. Is it really worth it for you to get angry and all upset about this or that thing?
As opposed to just saying, oh, it's a sin, I shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But the other thing, and I don't know if it's connected or not, is that our natural instinct, our amygdala and all that, the fight, flight, freeze, is also like a reaction. So part of that fight is that protective, is that anger, is that, I don't know if it's connected or not, but
Right.
the survival instinct.
Right. So there's a lot of
Even some of the teaching is very strict fear or love. Look at the little shaman. One very strict, one loving.
Right.
It's,
right.
Rabbi Akiva.
Right.
Always positive. He talks. So there's a lot of different ways of how we were taught.
Right.
And that's what he cares for.
We always try to carry the balance, right? But at some point, obviously, Hashem has decided by bringing us all this NLP, CBT, etc., that we needed something extra to be able to work on those things.
Yeah, but there are people who really love, covet, relish their anger.
Be my guest. What can I say? If it makes you happy.
No,
But
I'm
the
talking.
question is, do they acknowledge it as anger? Like you said, Hitler. I would say Trump. Although I know I'm in the minority here, but
By the way, the question is: are you talking about active anger?
I know. Well, I have to vote. I have to say it.
By the way, are you talking about active anger, or are you talking also about hiding anger? Right?
Yeah.
Because that's another thing. It's
Yeah,
not
that's
only that you shouldn't be actively angry.
Right.
Actually the inside anger is much more
Turns
destructive.
into depression.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So
And
it's
the
not
illness
only
and
the
everything
active
else.
anger that I'm referring to. I'm referring also to the hidden anger.
Yeah.
The hidden
That you
anger is going to
carry.
eat you up like crazy. It's going to kill
So
you maybe
true.
sooner than the active anger.
Yeah.
So it's all those things that we have to work out in ourselves to really get rid of it. And when I say anger, I mean everything that goes with it. It starts, I think, number one, with jealousy. With jealousy and frustration are the more, I think, fundamental feelings.
Is that what happened October 7th?
Yes.
They relished their anger.
No, jealousy.
Jealousy.
Jealousy,
You mean
absolutely.
with Hamas?
Yeah.
Nothing more hate.
The
lot more.
the
No, I
the
think there was
entire
more.
the entire
Jealousy.
the entire movement of let's say Islam or the entire movement of Christianity is we also want to be chosen. We also want to feel important. Now, if you are the chosen one, then you're standing in my way. Okay? And it comes down to a philosophical approach of how am I going to handle my enemy? If my enemy is taking from me, then I have to take it back. Not that he or she has a right to be a separate entity, but she's replacing me. This is the replacement theology that Christianity and Islam have. So
I didn't mean to make this
no,
political.
but in our relationship with God, the Torah is very specific in saying, do an action, do a positive action. Go out and do a chesed, okay? Go out and give tzedakah. Go out, extend
Out of
yourself
yourself.
out, doing good, and you will receive back goodness,
Is
okay?
that like pay it forward?
Paid for, it's exactly what
It's
it is.
exactly what it is.
The antidote to internalized anger is go out.
Right. It's also the antidote to depression.
Go out.
Yeah. The best thing it reminds me of a story. There was this one guy who was looking for his holy master. I don't remember what the name was. A couple of 100 years ago. And for his Rebbe. And he went somewhere where we heard that this, like you come there and Shabbos is just unbelievable. And you go and, like the singing and the prayer and the this and the that and the learning. And he goes there and he's sitting there and he's preparing to go to the mikvah and he's reading the whole Tehillim and la 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 la. And the Rebbe calls him in and he says to him, and he says, I'll be there in 5 minutes. So he says to the Mashamish, tell the Rebbe I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'll finish the Tehillim. So anyway, no, sorry. He goes to the Rebbe. The Rebbe tells him there's this Yankel who is like this, whatever, the drunkard of the village, right? And he has no money for Shabbos. You need to go with him and collect money in the town for their Shabbos. His wife is waiting to have some money for whatever. So he tells the Rebbe, but I need to finish this Tehillim and go to the mikvah. And the Rebbe says to him, you got it all wrong, And he thinks to himself, like, what kind of a Rebbe is this, And
No, you did one more four. 4 fours.
So sorry.
And number sign.
16.
32.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did it open?
No, you're
So
Anyway, so the Rebbe ignores him the whole Shabbos. And then after Shabbos, he figures he's, like, this is definitely not my Rebbe. And he's about to leave, and the Rebbe calls him back in. And he explains to him, like, Yiddishkeit is not about your mikvah and your tehillim and whatever. Yiddishkeit is when someone needs you, you go out and you do it on the spot. And that woman with the children who needs the money for the food, she needs it now, not tomorrow. Not in 2 hours. She needs it now. So it's like it's exactly that, and it's like and we many times, and like you kind of like brought me right into chesed as I was going to speak about chesed today. But like that's the whole idea, we're supposed to live in this world from exactly that place, not the place of, and unfortunately a lot of the Kabbalah in this world is being discussed more like, what am I going to get out of it? But this is exactly the opposite. This is why I started in the beginning by saying Kabbalah on one hand is to lekabel, is to receive. But on the other hand, we have to come to Kabbalah from exactly the other side of the coin, of like, what am I supposed to give? Not what am I supposed to, not what I want to receive, right? So, hello, good to see you.
No, it's okay.
So what am
I'm a little bit late. Apologize.
you made it?
I know.
This is Caroline, everybody.
Hello.
I got
Hello, darling.
It's okay.
So what am I going to give brings me very much again to that place of the relationship with Hashem of awe, right? But again, I'm supposed to like my whole relationship. That's like, and that basically brings us to the interaction between Chesed and Gvura. So also, like, if you will look at the scheme of the tree of life, you will see that there is like a right side, a left side, and a middle line. It's called in Kabbalah the right line, the left line, and the middle line. And the right line is Chesed. And if you'll see all, and as we go forward, we'll see how the other sfirot that are under Chesed why they're actually on the right side and not on the left side. But Chesed is also symbolized by silver, and as opposed to Gevura, which is symbolized by gold. And actually it says, so like, okay, so how do we balance basically the chesed and the gevura in our hearts is number one, what we want to ask and a little bit like analyze, right? And and where am I coming from? Am I coming in everything that I do out of the chesed place in me or out of the gvura? But chesed and gevura is not necessarily only good and bad, kindness versus limitations or versus boundaries. That's the common way of interpreting it. But chesed and gevura, number one, first way to understand them is to understand that the chesed just flows out of me, like Avram was saying. Avram Avinu just comes out. He doesn't come out to make the cows for the angels. He runs to give the cows, to slaughter the cows and bake the bread and whatever. He runs, it's all emphasized there, how he runs, how it flows out of him. And we were talking about it on Shabbos, that it's like you don't have to. What really changes is in next Parshas Vayera. It's not that Avram didn't know that you're supposed to do Achnasat Orchim. And it's not like he wasn't doing Achnasat Orchim until Parshat Vayera. But it was all of a sudden, the greatness of it was revealed to him. It's not that Avram Avinu is being instructed to do the Torah. Chesed, by the way, comes from this is the same shoresh, the same source as the word chasid. What is chasid? Chasid is not necessarily the guy with the long payas and the shtraimo. It's not also necessarily righteous. Chasid is the overdoer. Is the one who always wants to do more. It's that friend or spouse or parent who runs to always do more for you, for us, or child, yeah, but who always wants to do more than what you asked for, right? So it's not that
Het Samach Yud Dalet.
yeah, Het Samach Yud Dalet.
And here they show it as follower.
It's also a follower,
But there's
right? It's also a follower. But the original Chassid of King David, right, where is the first time that we meet that word, is comes to bring out the idea of the overdoing, that the chesed overflows over the cup, right? That's the way the chesed should. This is what chesed is in our lives. It's that feeling that I want to give. It's not that I'm giving. It's the feeling that it overflows, that my cup is overflowing with chesed, right? Gevura, on the other side, is I'm a little restrained, right? But then comes the Jewish understanding of Gevura, which is also not only boundaries and not only restrainment, yeah, but also the idea that Ezeu Gibor Akoveshet Yitzro, who is a hero. Like when in Judaism in general, how do we know every word what it means? We go to the first place it's mentioned in the Torah. So Gibor in the Mishnah is the idea of a person who comes, who knows how to conquer their inclinations. Yetzer is not only Yetzer Hara, right? We're used to learn the word Yetzer in reference to Yetzer Hara, but we have inclinations, and it is healthy that we have our ego. We don't need to nullify our egos. We just need to put them in the right frame. We need to heal our ego so it will be in service of us and not harm us. And when we don't put our egos in the right frame, it turns against us.
Well, there's also Yetzer Tov.
There's also Yetzer Tov, right.
So that's
right.
service.
Right. So Ezeu Gibor Koveshet Yitzro, who is a hero? Yitzro, his inclination, right? Kovesh. Kovesh et Yitzro, the one who conquers his inclination, right? So Gevura comes from there. Is that Gibor, is a hero. Gevura is heroism. Gevura is also what's it called? Identified with what?
Strength.
Also, yeah. It's not like it could be used in a negative way, and it could be used in a positive way, right? We have in Sfirat HaOmer, what do we have? We have Gevura shebechesed, and we have Chesed shebegvura. We need to learn how to use our Gevura when we do Chesed, and we need to learn how we do Chesed when we use Gevura. We need to learn how to balance them. So Hashem. So first of all, okay. So we'll go a little bit to Hashem's world again. come up from our world a little bit to Hashem's world, right? So Hashem had created the world with Chesed and Gevura and Tiferet and Netzach and Hod and Yesod and Malchut, and basically and Malchut is basically the pool that contains all the other Sfirot, right? What happens in this world is done with all these other Sfirot. Everything that happens in the world is being created with all these attributes that Hashem had used. Basically, all those, so to speak, we have physicality rules in the world, and then we have the spiritual physicality rules of the world. So all the Sfirot are basically like the spiritual physicality rules of the world. So how do we learn to use the Chesed and the Gevura in the right manner? Okay.